CBS Sports put out the college football quarterback power rankings heading into spring practice. This comes from Tom Fornelli of CBS Sports. He just ranks the top 10. Garrett Nussmeier did rank the top 10, but I'm not so concerned on where Garrett Nussmeier ranked, but who they ranked ahead of it. First off, number 1 on this list is Arch Manning. This is ridiculous. I have always been a fan of the Manning family. Peyton Manning was probably my favorite football player growing up. Never had an issue with Eli. Archie Manning is a Saints legend. But I got to be honest, I'm kind of getting tired of the Arch Manning stuff, and I'm usually someone that stuff like this doesn't bother. This guy hasn't even been a starting quarterback in college. He started 3 games for the Texas Longhorns with honestly mixed reviews. I think Arch Manning is very talented. But it's different when you're the guy. We don't know what this offense is going to look like with Arch Manning at the helm. Again, he's very talented, but look who he lost. Gunnar Helm, who was first-team All-SEC at tight end. Matthew Golden, who's a likely first-round pick. Isaiah Bond, who's going to get drafted somewhere in the first 3 rounds of the NFL draft. You lose all those guys, and you're stepping in your first year as a starting quarterback in the SEC. I like Arch Manning. I think he is a very good player. To have him number 1 in your quarterback power rankings heading into spring, what are we doing? This is getting a little ridiculous. Pump the brakes on this guy. It's going to turn into one of those things where it's, hey, we have ranked Arch Manning so high that he is never going to live up to the expectations we set for him. And it's unfortunate because I think Arch Manning actually is going to be a very good player. I think at the end of the year, we may very well look and say, hey, the best quarterback in college football plays at Texas. That is certainly a possibility. He cannot be number 1 entering the season. He has not been a starting quarterback in college. It's going to be a new look offense for him. They got some running backs back, but they lose a lot of weapons on the outside. No, I think Steve Sarkisian is going to be fine. Texas recruits well. I think he's going to get more weapons. But again, just like Arch, they're all unproven. I don't really understand why he is at the top of this list. The guy who comes in at number 2 might be the only one on this list that I'm okay being ranked ahead of Garrett Nussmeier. And LSU fans are going to get a look at him early in the 2025 college football season. It's Clemson's Cade Klubnik. This makes sense. Cade Klubnik is entering his 3rd year as the starting quarterback at Clemson. I have no issue with him being over Garrett Nussmeier. He had 3,600 yards, 36 touchdowns, 6 INTs. So while Nussmeier threw for a lot of yards, he scored a lot of touchdowns. Nussmeier's turnovers were a little up. He was a first-year starting quarterback in the SEC. Cade Klubnik did not have those turnover problems. Also, I talked about this a few weeks ago when I had to fill in for Hunt. We kind of previewed the LSU strength of schedule. A lot of people think that the Clemson game could be the make-or-break game for LSU in 2025. Cade Klubnik gets back his top 3 receivers from a year ago. Now, he loses Phil Maffa, who was his starting running back, but Clemson couldn't run the ball last year anyways, and Cade Klubnik was fine. I think he's in for a heck of a year. I'm okay with this. I'm not going to sit up here and be an LSU homer and say Garrett Nussmeier has to be number 1, even though I think he is a really talented player and could be number 1 by season's end. I'm okay with Klubnik. At number 3, we have Carson Beck. You have got to be kidding me putting Carson Beck at number 3. 2 years ago, sure, put Carson Beck at 3. Heading into last year, sure, that's fine. Carson Beck at Georgia, his first year, 3,900 yards, 24 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. Really good season. He kind of degressed last year. In 2023, 72% completion percentage. Last year, dropped all the way down to 64%. Now, I get it. He lost some weapons. He lost Ladd McConkey. He lost Brock Bowers. His completion percentage fell by 8 total percentage points, and he threw double the amount of interceptions in year 2 at Georgia than he did year 1. And when you look at Garrett Nussmeier's overall numbers, he was similar. 64% completion percentage, 4,000 yards, 29 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. That was Nussmeier last year. But Carson Beck is also going to a brand new school. His numbers were similar to Nuss's, but that's a year 2 quarterback who is degressed compared to a year 1 guy who's his first year starting in the SEC. He's at a new school. He's got brand new weapons. He's coming off of an injury. How's he going to look there? And also, you're going to a Miami school that has to replace Xavier Restrepo, your number one receiver from a year ago. You have to replace Isaiah Arroyo, the talented tight end. There's no guarantee he's going to have top flight weapons at Miami. At 4 and 5, they have Tom has Drew Allard at 4 and Sam Levitt at 5. I get it. I mean, I actually think Nussmeier is a little bit better quarterback than Sam Levitt. But when you look at Drew Aller, he had a really good season. 24 touchdowns, 8 interceptions, about 66% completion percentage. I'm okay with it. Plus, he had a lot more team success than Garrett. So if you want to look at that and say, hey, these guys may go further in the playoffs, I like this team a little bit better, I'm okay with that. Sam Levitt, I could go either way just because Cam Scatterby was such a big part of that offense. Also, he only completed 61% of his passes. Garrett Nussmeier's almost at 65%. But he did have 24 touchdowns. He had 6 interceptions. We know Levitt can run a little bit. I can give or take those. Those I'm not as mad about as I am an Arch Manning or a Carson Beck. As far as Garrett Nussmeier goes, they have Garrett Nussmeier at 6. And again, Tom Fornelli at CBS Sports put out this. He says, I'll never stop being enamored with the cannon that Garrett Nussmeier has, nor should you, considering that the throws you see him make at times. I don't think I need to worry about that as far as arm strength. It's clear that he loves to show it off, and it's one of the things he loves about Nussmeier. He said, however, it is better for Nussmeier's draft stock and LSU's ability to compete in the SEC if you harness that a little, if you pull back on it, and maybe not be quite as aggressive. Essentially, Tom said all that to just say, hey, Garrett, cut down on the turnover numbers. I think he will. I think Garrett will cut down on the turnover numbers. And you got to understand, Nussmeier's offensive line was not good at run blocking. Your running game was inconsistent. While Caden Durham gave it a huge jump, Garrett almost kind of did have to do it all on his own. Look, he learned, and then later in the year, he was a lot better about that than he was earlier. I think he's going to be fine. But look, when you look at Garrett Nussmeier, you get Joe Sloan back, so you're working with your same offensive coordinator. It's year 2 in the program. You lose Kyron Lacey and Mason Taylor. Mason Taylor is a huge loss. However, LSU did a pretty good job of replacing Mason Taylor. You got Bauer Sharp. You got Donovan Green. We know what Trey Green can do. And then look at his receivers. Aaron Anderson wound up being your number 1 wide receiver as far as guys lined up out wide at the end of last year. You saw the impact Chris Hilton had at the end of the year once he finally got healthy. You have a 100% healthy Chris Hilton. You have Aaron Anderson back. You have Xavion Thomas. And then you add Nick Anderson, who's 6'5", and you had Barian Brown, who's one of the fastest players in the SEC. Garrett Nussmeier has better weapons than he had a year ago. I think his running game is going to be better than it was a year ago. He has the experience and the growing pains that comes with year 1 as a starting quarterback in the SEC. The biggest concern right now for Garrett Nussmeier is his offensive line. But if they can get that figured out, Garrett Nussmeier is in for a big year. That's why I don't like, look, I get it. You have to judge them off of what they did in the past. But again, a guy like Carson Beck degressed from year 1 to year 2 as a starter. He's going to a new school in a new system, having to replace a lot of weapons from a year ago at Miami. And then Arch Manning hasn't even been a full-time starting quarterback anywhere in college football. You can't rank both of those guys ahead of Garrett Nussmeier. And it's not even based on what you think they're going to do. This was going into spring where these guys rank in the pecking order in terms of college football. For what it's worth, behind Garrett Nussmeier, Lenore Sellers at South Carolina at 7, Sawyer Robertson at Baylor at number 8, Rocco Becht at Iowa State, number 9, and DJ Lagway at Florida at number 10, who's going to miss some of the spring. He's limited with that arm injury, but he certainly seems like he's in for a big year as well.
Hey, thanks for watching Hunt on LSU. Before you get out of here, do us a couple of favors. Hit that like button, leave your comments below, and subscribe to the channel for all your Fighting Tiger football talk. See you next time.